In this video, I'm going to talk about how to charge for wedding invitations. So let's go ahead and dive in because I know making money is so important to your business. Hi, I'm Laney. I'm a wedding invitation designer and I love to teach other people how to run successful, profitable stationery design businesses. So this is a huge passion of mine. Pricing is one of my favorite things to talk about, and I have a 4-hour plus course all about pricing where you get a super deep dive into just all of my numbers, everything that goes into pricing your stationery business, talking about money with your clients, etc. So I hope that you'll take a look at that. It's going to be linked in the description of this video, but we'll do a brief overview today. Okay, so when it comes to pricing the kind of materials of your stationery business, there's two different strategies that most of us use. So some people will fall into what I call top down. So they want to make $100,000 in a year. They want to take on 20 clients. They know they need to make $5,000 profit on each client. So then $5,000 becomes kind of a buy-in fee for each client, and then all of their product and the printing and everything they actually order and pay for is sold pretty much at cost. It's rounded up to cover credit card fees and taxes and things, but it's pretty much at cost. The issue with this is that it works better for someone who's a little bit more experienced. So if you want to charge $5,000 as a buy-in and get 20 clients in a year, you have to know that you're going to be able to get 20 clients that will pay that $5,000 buy-in in addition to all their production stuff. The benefit of this is you're always making the same amount of money pretty much. You have your year projected out. You're not really relying on people to buy more expensive things for your pricing to go up. It's really good for people who are buying things like letterpress or more expensive items because you don't really have to mark them up. You kind of have to just charge them almost at cost. So there's a lot of benefits to this, but it's tough for people who are just starting out. And so a lot of people use what I call the bottom up method, which is probably more what you're familiar with from a pricing standpoint. Bottom up is taking the cost of the materials, taking your time, adding the margins, and adding it all up. So this is really what we're gonna work with today because I think that's what most of you probably watching this video are more comfortable with at this point. One of the downsides to this is you kind of don't know how much you're going to make in a year unless you're really good at projecting. You know, you can still project, I'm going to work with 20 clients, and you can still project what your profits are going to be, but what your clients buy will have a larger effect on your pricing, whether they go with letterpress or not, wax seals or not, 150 versus 12 invites, etc. So I think it's a little bit more variable, but you can do it in a way that is stable, which is something that I focus on a lot when I'm talking about pricing, is standardizing and stabilizing this so that you can make those projections and so that you can feel good about what you're making for the year. Okay, so in this case, we'll have time, we'll have products, and we'll have margins. So I'm going to skip time for now and talk about that in a minute. But when you take your product, you have to charge a margin on that. That is because if I buy something for $1 and then my client buys it from me for $1, I'm paying, 20% in taxes on that. I'm paying the credit card fee, which is 3%, etc. And then also just all the stuff that keeps my business running, like lights, internet, education, courses, certifications, all the things that I have to do. So I'm not actually making $1, even if my client pays me $1, I'm probably making more like 60, 70 cents. And so that's where your profit margins come in. You have to sell something for more than you bought it for in order to cover all of that overhead, cover taxes, cover credit card fees, and all those other things. So a stationery business profit margin is usually about 2.5 to 3 times the cost of the goods. So if I buy something for $1, I need to charge $2.50 to $3 for that piece. If I buy something for $100, I need to charge $250 to $300 for that piece. And that will give me somewhere around like a 60% profit margin on my goods. This doesn't play out 100% of the time. Some of those luxury print methods, we have a little bit harder time charging full 3 times margin on, but I typically do aim for 2.5 to 3 times the total on all of my invoices. One thing that you may need to take into account is extras. So if the client orders 100 and I need to assemble them or I need to put them together, I'm gonna need to order, sometimes 120, sometimes 160 if I'm sending it to a bunch of different printers and stuff like that. So you need to make sure that your client is paying for those and you're not only charging them for 100, but you're building in the cost for the full extra 20%, 5 pieces, whatever it is that you're going to need. If you do decide to enroll in my course, I have spreadsheets and exercises that will make this so much easier for you, where you can just plug in the information. It'll do all the math for you, which is really helpful. Okay, so say someone orders a digital print, it's gonna cost $1. I'm gonna charge $3 for it. That's great. But how am I also covering my time? I mentioned that was the other piece of this. Your time is typically gonna be included in what's called a design fee. You can call this whatever you want. Most of us do call it a design fee because it's the fee. I like to think of it as the Laney fee. So that's what they're paying for me. They can get paper and envelopes from any other designer that they want to hire. They can get them themselves. They can do that anywhere. The thing that they can't do themselves or get from another designer is what I'm going to do for them. And that's all the time that I'm investing into this project, whether that's design, assembly, just admin, like walking them through the project, consulting with them, answering their questions, etc. So all of that time is built for me into a design fee. It's easy. I talked about standardizing this. So in general, you'll want to kind of come up with your standard suite offering so that you have a place to start on your proposals, and so that not everything is 100% custom built from scratch, because that's just going to take you so much time and be so variable. You're devoting a ton of time to a client who hasn't really booked yet. So try to make it really easy to create a proposal by standardizing your suite. So I have a standard offering that is invitation, reply card, details card, 2 envelopes, and then I include printed addressing and shipping. So then I have a design fee that works for all of that. Currently it's $1,500, and most of my clients spend $3,500 to $4,000 on about 100 suites. So if that's something that you want to be charging, definitely stick around. The $1,500 they're paying is the only fee that no one ever really negotiates. No one says, hey, can we remove that? Can we reduce that? They'll say, hey, can we remove the envelope liner? We can remove addressing. Let's do printed instead of calligraphy. There's a lot of times that people will negotiate some of the other line items, which is great. That's fine. If they want to lower the scope of the work for me, then I don't need to charge them as much to fit in their budget. But no one ever says, hey, can you reduce that design fee? Because they know that that's what they're paying for me, and no one ever questions it, which I really love about the design fee. So in this fee, you'll want to include your standard amount of design time, which you need to know. So I recommend using a time tracker to time the next few designs you do, so you actually have that information and can price that accurately. You want to include any admin time, so emailing, consulting, etc., everything that you invest in this client, and then also any assembly that you do on a regular basis. So my standard suite doesn't include extras like envelope liners, wax seals, ribbons. So if I add those things on, I'm gonna include the assembly pricing in that line item. But what I include is 2 hours of assembly for the main suite, which just includes like putting stuff into the envelopes, packaging it up, etc. So my basic level of assembly is included there. If you don't want to include assembly, great, you don't necessarily have to charge for it. If you want to include really aggressive assembly and sending out and stamping and mailing and everything, great, just add that into that fee so they know they're getting this really high level of service, and that's what they're paying for there. Okay, so this is just a very brief overview. Hopefully it gave you a few things to think about. If you want to see more deep dives into how I do this, definitely join Power in Pricing, which is linked in the description of this video. But you'll want to, as a basic rule, stick to those 2.5 to 3 times margins on all your product, add in your design fee, and then in that you're going to want to include any admin and assembly time, proofing, revisions, etc., that you're going to invest in your standard offering. I hope this was helpful. Let me know what questions you'd like me to cover about pricing, and if you want to check out that course, it's linked in the description of the video. We also have tons of other videos on running a profitable, successful stationery business while you're here if you want to stick around and watch some more of those. Thanks, everybody.